Hello and welcome to lesson 14 of Global Development. This session is going to be looking at technology and connectivity in India. So we're going to be looking today at how technology has helped India develop and how it's supported India's development and its rapid development over the last 20 to 30 years. Alright, so get the title written down, get the learning objective written down, and then we will start the lesson. Okay, so firstly, this is a bit of a challenge for you. How many people do you think in India have a mobile phone? How many mobile phones are there in India? All right, so that's what I want you to just have a little guess at. Once you've got a guess, feel free to shout at the screen or just keep it in your mind, and I'll reveal the answer. Okay, so I don't know what your number was because obviously I can't hear you, but it's about 590 million. Although these numbers are out of date by about 5 years, so it's probably now nearer 6, 7, 800 million. But that said, it's a large number. But that doesn't necessarily tell you the whole story, because you could say, hang on a minute, 590 million phones, that's a lot of phones. But if I was to do this same survey in the UK, we'd probably find that it's, maybe 100 million, but the population of the UK isn't even 100 million. That suggests that pretty much everybody in the UK has a mobile phone, and many people have 2, even 3 mobile phones that could work. India, on the other hand, has a population, and you can see it on this slide, of 1.3 billion. So 1.3 billion people. So really, less than half of the population of India have a mobile phone. Now, the UK equivalent would be pretty astounding. If you were in a classroom and I said, you're year 10 or year 11, how many of you have got a mobile phone? Every one of you is putting your hand up. Pretty much, every one of you. If half of you put your hand up, most of you with a phone would look around and be a bit surprised that half of you didn't have mobile phones, because that's the nature of them in this country. We're a developed country. We've got excellent access to very affordable technology. Now, India is developing; it's not there yet, and there's these stats, these statistics, really tell you a bit of a picture about India's technology and its access to technology. Now, these figures are slightly out of date. They are, let's say, 4 or 5 years old. Okay, but they're the most up to date I can find. And what I'd like you to do with these particular images, okay, and this is this idea of a digital divide. I'll give you a definition of that soon. But to start with, I would like you to use these images to do a subheading. So India's total population, actually it's slightly higher than that, so you might want to look up the specific ones. Okay, we've actually done this for one of the lessons earlier on. But I want you to write down subheading total population, how many people there are in India, again get an up-to-date figure, and then how many people live in urban areas. So essentially, I just want you to jot down these stats. Don't necessarily do all of the bit underneath, okay, as long as you fully understand it. So total population India, 1 point whatever billion, urbanisation 30 odd percent, it's probably now about 40. Then do the same with this stat, active internet users, the number of people that use the internet, write that as a subheading, 350 million, which represents 27% of the population. Okay, that's what we mean by penetration. How many people, how many percentage of the population does this represent? Just 27. About a quarter of the population have internet. 1/4, that's it. How many people use social media total? 134 million. That's 10% of the population. How many people have mobile phones? 590 million, less than half. How many people on their mobile phones have social media? So how many people have smartphones, basically? Less than 8%. Now, the other thing, if I did a little straw poll in my class, how many of you have got mobile phone? You'd all put your hand up. How many of those mobile phones are smartphones? You'd all put your hand up. How many of you people use social media on your mobile phone? You'd all put your hand up. So it's very difficult for us to visualize just how low these figures are, because we don't live in that situation. We haven't got that particular circumstance. So jot these figures down, so you've got just a list of figures. Just bullet points is fine, and when you're ready, move on to the next slide, and we're going to talk about the digital divide. Okay, so the digital divide is represented quite nicely by this map, and this map shows you internet penetration, basically the number of people percentage wise that have internet in these regions. The darker the pink, the more people. The first thing is, in all of India, again from this stat, which again is a bit old, 2012, all right, so this is certainly, it's nearly 10 years old now, and that's changed quite a lot. It showed you in 2012, nearly 97% of India had no internet. 97%. Now, since 2012, that figure is far reduced. Okay, there is so many more people with access to the internet. But predominantly there were about 3-4 regions where there was a lot of internet. I say a lot. The darker pink still only represents 5 to 10% of the population in those areas. Now another map, a recent map, would definitely show a darker pink. Now unfortunately I don't have another one, which is really annoying. But if you just did a quick Google search, you might find a map that shows you just what the internet penetration is in India today. I promise you it's a lot more. All right. Now, the digital divide, you need a definition of that first and foremost. So there you go. It's that first bullet point. It's an economic and social inequality due to more or less access to technology. Now, we've dealt with inequality before, but not in this topic. We did it for changing cities. Now, the digital divide is something else which creates inequality. People that have access to the internet and access to technology are less able to develop as those that don't. So it's really, really important that you jot down what the digital divide is. And then what I've done is I've tried to color code it for you a little bit. I've tried to identify some stats and facts and figures and specific India related information in the other 5 bullet points. Okay, and if it's red, it's something which would mean there's less access to technology, and if it's green, it means there is maybe greater access to technology. Because remember, the digital divide isn't like India versus the rest of the world. This is looking just at India. So in India, the core regions, places like Mumbai, have far higher access to technology than the peripheral regions like Bihar. All right, so really I need you to pause the screen and write down everything on the screen that you see right now. So you've got a really good kind of set of notes, an overview really, of just how the digital divide is present within India. All right, so jot all these notes down and make sure you're aware of where it means there's more or less access to technology. When you've done that, unpause the screen and then we're going to do the main activity for the session. Okay, now this is on 365 as a handout, so you haven't had to write any of these notes. I know I've just made you write a full page of notes in this slide, but these ones I've done for you. Now what I've done with the notes is I've picked out 5 very specific examples of technology being used in India. Okay, you've got the Biometric Identification Project, which is known as the Aadhaar, the Swasthya Slate, the X Prize Foundation, smartphones for farmers, and call centers. Okay, these are all technology-based kind of things that are helping India develop. Now, alongside naming it, I've also given you detail about what it is, and more importantly, how it's affecting India's development. For, generally speaking, for the better. How it's reducing inequality, how it's improving access to technology, etc. Okay. Now, development isn't just about technology, so some of these things, for example smartphones for farmers, that's helping India develop because it means that they can grow more food and that helps create a healthier population. So what you need to do to start with is get this information, print it, have it in your notes, okay, just cut and stick it, no problem, but then read it through really carefully. And I want you to pick 2 of these, just 2, that you think, I get that, I understand that. Because some of these you won't remember, and you don't need to know 5 strategies. Worst case scenario for an 8-mark question, 2 strategies is all you're going to need to give you specific detail. There's no way you could implement 5 different bits of specific detail in 10 minutes, because that's all you've got for an 8-mark essay. So I want you to read through these, and I want you to pick 2 that you think, you know what, I could use those in an essay, I get those, I understand them. Okay, so that's your next task. Do that now, please. And when you're ready, unpause the screen because we're going to do something with those 2 that you've recognised. Okay, you might have seen this coming. All right, this is an 8-mark question, and I've given you plenty of practice of these in the past, and certainly within this topic, I've really overloaded you because I desperately want you to have, go to an exam knowing exactly how to structure these 8-mark questions. So this one is assess. And we've done an assess question, just 2 lessons ago you would have done an assess question, but assess how the digital divide can be overcome to improve India's development. Okay, so we're looking at the digital divide, so we're looking at technology that's going to try and overcome this, and how it's going to improve India's development. So I've got instructions for you, 1 to 5, that is going to help you answer this question. Firstly, read through all that information, highlight facts and figures, and pick 2 of the tech projects that you like or understand the most. You should have already done that. Okay, you should have already done 1 and 2 here. Then I want you to start your first paragraph by naming or talking about one of the chosen projects, one of the 2 that you picked. Okay, so do that, pick one of the 2. Then use the assess structure as you normally do to build your answer to help you. Then I want you to do another paragraph with your second chosen project, followed by your conclusion. Which of those 2 projects do you think will have the most significant impact on improving India's development? All right. Now, what I have done, okay, because I don't often do this in these sessions, but what I have done, aside from giving you these instructions, and just 2 lessons ago you already being given lots of kind of support to develop an assess question, I have written a model answer for this, which is going to appear very soon. But before you look at my model answer, you need to have a go at doing this yourself. So pick the 2 that you think are most, you get most, you understand the best, and then apply my assess structure to build your paragraphs and conclude your essay, so you can tell me how the digital divide has been overcome to improve India's development. Then when you are ready, which is in about 15 to 20 minutes once you've written your essay, you can unpause the screen and I will tell you or show you an essay that I wrote in 8 minutes. Okay, I did time myself, I am that sad, and it is a lot there because I type quite quickly, but luckily I kind of know how to structure it off by heart. I don't have to think about the structure, so I can really apply it, and practice makes, not perfect, but practice makes definitely faster and more efficient answers happen in a much more sort of straightforward way. So when you're ready, and once you've done your essay, which I would again like you to send to me, the more essays I get to mark, the better you'll do, before you then look at my model answer and see how your kind of answer matches up to mine. Okay, so here is the model answer that I wrote in 8 minutes, very specifically uses the information from the handout that I've given you, and I structure it in the way that I've shown you. So I'm going to talk you through this really briefly, and then you can kind of compare yours to this one. So I've gone straight in by naming my first technology project. India uses smartphone apps to help farmers with crop production. That's naming my aspect. Then I'm going to describe it. This provides them with details about what crops are best to plant and when conditions for planting are greatest to increase yields. Okay, so what is the technology and what does it do? Now I'm going to explain how it's going to help India overcome the digital divide and how it's going to help India develop. This will reduce the digital divide because with greater and more reliable food production, India can increase time in schools in rural areas, extend it, which will attract investment towards more peripheral regions. It could also improve income in rural areas, so more money can be used to improve connections in these areas, like broadband masts. As 58% of people rely on agriculture for income, this will benefit a huge number of people. Okay, that's my stat. So then I've done this for another technology project. India have also developed call center industry. TNCs have outsourced jobs in call center customer services in larger cities. So name my aspect, describe it. How is it going to help India overcome its digital divide and develop? This will boost India's development because it means there are higher paid jobs available for people, and it may boost access to technology as there's greater rural to urban migration because people are attracted to the jobs. And we know that the cities are where there's connectivity. And there's my stat to back it up. In 24% of call center jobs, in 2014, 24% of call center jobs were in India for companies like HSBC and BT. So there you go, my 2 paragraphs that give me 2 very specific, with statistics, technology projects which are going to help India develop and overcome the digital divide. Now I need a conclusion, and if you've ever watched, you should have done by now, my How to Write a Good Conclusion video on the revision PowerPoint playlist, you will notice that I've got lots of justification. In fact, it is my biggest paragraph, and they're all very balanced. So, in conclusion, I feel that smartphone apps will help India develop more and overcome the digital divide. So I've stated very clearly which one of these 2 I think is the most significant. This is because the number of those affected is far greater, 58%, and it will spread development across India to reduce uneven development. Okay, so it's going to improve not just the core but the periphery regions. This will in turn increase the investment and speed of development in peripheral regions, which may attract more investment from FDI. The development in call centres does provide a huge source of income. So I'm naming my other one, but I'm now justifying why I don't think it is as significant as the smartphones. Okay, so call centres are great because they provide income, but it's on the decline in India. Okay, and that's on the information that I've given you, and it really focuses the investment in the already more developed urban areas, which could increase the development gap. So actually, if anything, call centres might actually increase the digital divide depending on whether people do move from those rural areas or not. So there you go. Pause the screen, digest this, rewrite it, do whatever you want to do. Okay, screenshot it, I don't mind. Okay, as much as you want. But this is how this can be produced in 8 minutes. Okay, it can be produced with good structure. It can incorporate detail, not loads. 2 stats I've got: 58%, 24%. That's it. HSBC BT. I haven't got loads in there, but what I've got is terms like FDI and outsourcing. Where's outsourcing? It's in there somewhere. Periphery, core. I've identified loads and loads of specific development stats and factors, which I'm showing the examiner my knowledge of this topic as a whole. But more importantly, I've very clearly said and explained how I think the digital divide can be overcome in India to improve its development. Okay, there's a lot to take in from this session, but hopefully having a model answer to see this time will help you see how it can be structured. All right, and again, I'd recommend, if you didn't get it first time round, just re-watch this information, go over it again, so you've got a really good overview about what an 8 mark out of 8 essay could look like. And to be honest, you wouldn't need to do anywhere near as much as this to get 8 out of 8 in an exam scenario. This would be something that you'd only expect from super practiced geography teachers like myself. All right, that's it. This session done. Thank you very much for listening. I will see you next time for lesson 15, which is the very final lesson on development. So I'll see you then. Well done, and thanks for listening.